This is module 16, and we are talking about sleep patterns and sleep theories. And we'll talk about the theories a little bit more in class, but let's get started. Okay. Ooh, wow. I don't need to be that big. So circadian rhythms, you've probably heard of this before, but all of us have a circadian rhythm. And basically, a circadian rhythm is our body's natural alarm clock telling us when to be alert and when to go to sleep. So for example, for humans, we have a 24-hour cycle, a 24-hour circadian rhythm that for the most part, if we have a normal functioning circadian rhythm, it's going to align with night and day. So we should be asleep during the night and awake during the day. Now, age and experience can alter this. So young people tend to be night owls. And as we get older, we actually start becoming more and more of morning people. So after around age 20, you'll start being more productive during the morning time versus the afternoon. And when we actually test the highest cognitive abilities at the time of day for teenagers versus old people, for old people, it's at early in the morning, like 10. For teenagers, it's around 2 p.m. It's much later. And you can see here, this is our part of our circadian rhythm. It tells us the different times things are happening in our bodies. So, for example, if we wake up at, let's say we wake up at 6 a.m. Let's say we wake up at 8 a.m. Our highest alertness is around 10. Our best coordination is at 2:30, fastest reaction time at 3:30, best cardiovascular efficiency and muscle strength around 5. So all of those fun things. Okay, now let's talk about sleep stages. You need to know these. So right here, this is an image showing you kind of what it looks like when a person is getting a sleep study done. So this is part of an EEG. They put them on their eyes and their chin, and they're putting electrodes all over the face to basically record any muscle movements as well as brain activity that's happening. So during the night, we have 90-minute cycles while we sleep. So every 90 minutes, the cycle kind of starts over once again. And one of the biggest parts of our sleep cycle, one of the biggest chunks, is what we call REM sleep, which stands for rapid eye movement. So REM is a recurring sleep stage which vivid dreams are most common in. When you're having really intense dreams, that's usually in REM sleep. REM sleep is also known as paradoxical sleep. And a paradox is when things kind of are a mystery to us. And the reason why we call REM sleep paradoxical sleep is because when we are in REM, our muscles are so relaxed to the point that they're almost paralyzed. Whereas our mind at the very same time is extremely active, and our brain waves show activity that looks very similar to us being awake. Now, because this is a time of deep muscle relaxation, this is where sleep paralysis can occur. So if you've ever experienced sleep paralysis, it was happening during REM because basically your brain woke up, but your body did not yet. And so you couldn't move. So let's start at the beginning of the night. When you're laying in bed, you're awake but relaxed. Your brain is emitting what we call alpha waves. So these are fairly sporadic waves, like fairly, it's not crazy fast, but it's not super slow. Then as you fall into sleep, this will cause some irregular brain waves and slowing of your breathing. And now you've entered into stage 1, which we call NREM1. N stands for non-REM. So NREM, non-REM 1. So you're in stage 1. And this is like very kind of like light sleep. So during this time, you can experience sensory feelings similar to hallucinations. So if you've ever been falling asleep and you literally feel like you're falling and you kind of jerk up like that, you are in stage 1. That's called a hypnagogic jerk. Or if you've ever felt like you were floating weightlessly away, that also is happening in stage 1. Okay, then in stage 1, after you've been there for about 20 minutes, you're then going to progress into NREM stage 2, which is characterized by these brain waves called sleep spindles, which will be kind of like bursts of rapid activity and then slow, and then bursts and slow. So at this point, you are fully asleep. It's not light sleep, but you could still be awakened easily. So then you're in there for a little bit. Then you're going to fall into stage 3 or NREM 3, which is deep sleep. And if we go back to the previous slide, this is where the delta waves are going to occur, is in deep sleep. So in stage 3, you're going to be in stage 3 for about 30 minutes in that first cycle. And like I said, at that time, your brain is emitting these big, slow delta waves. So your brain waves are very slow and synchronized. Whereas when you're awake, your brain waves are very fast and kind of disjunct, like all not synchronized. Now, in deep sleep or stage 3, which also used to be called stage 4, but now we just call it stage 3 and REM 3, this is when sleepwalking can occur. And so if you're a sleepwalker, that happens during deep sleep. Okay, so we've gone from we've fallen asleep, then we go to stage 2, then we're in deep sleep. So we're there for a little while, for about 30 minutes. And then after that 30 minutes has progressed in our first cycle, our brain is gonna go back into stage 2. And it'll be there for a few minutes, and then it's going to progress into REM. So REM is at the very end of each sleep cycle. Now, you'll see here, R stands for REM, okay? So at the beginning of the night, you're not getting a ton of REM. You're getting a lot more deep sleep at the beginning of the night. As the night progresses, you get less and less deep sleep and more REM sleep until you wake up. So during REM, again, your brain is super active. You have the most vivid dreams taking place. Your eyes dart back and forth under your eyelids. This is why we call it REM, rapid eye movement. And your breathing becomes rapid and irregular. Also during this time, whether you're male or female, this happens for everyone. Genital stimulation will take place during REM, regardless of the dream content. Your motor cortex is active, but the brainstem blocks all movement, leaving you essentially paralyzed during this time. And again, this is the time that's called paradoxical sleep, because the body is completely relaxed, but the brain is highly active. Now, what things affect our sleep patterns? Age affects our sleep patterns. Babies and children need far more sleep than adults do, and it's because of development. They are developing much more than us, both physically, their brain is developing, all of these things. So they require a lot more sleep than we do. Also, what can affect our sleep patterns are our genetics and our environment. There are some people who don't require as much sleep as others. There are some people who need 9 hours of sleep to feel good. There are some people that only require 4 or 5 to feel great. Now, some environmental things that can impact our sleep are lights, social media, and shift work. So, in our hypothalamus, there is a region called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, or the SCN. The SCN is an area that is affected by light. And when the SCN perceives bright light, it sends messages to the pineal gland to stop the release of melatonin. So if we're seeing bright light, our brain is thinking, oh, it's daytime, it's time to be awake. So it will not allow melatonin to be released. This is why people say you shouldn't be looking at your phone for about an hour before you go to bed, or any kind of light, any kind of bright light, because what you're doing is essentially messing up your body's natural circadian rhythm. You are delaying the time of melatonin release. Another thing that can affect sleep are the times in which you work. So people who consistently work night shifts can experience a thing called desynchronization, which can lead to fatigue, stomach issues, heart disease, and breast cancer for women. I can tell you, my partner worked in the night shift for a long time, and it was very hard on his body and brain to have to be active during times your body naturally wants to be in rest. Now, some theories of sleep. We're going to talk about it more in class, but there's the idea of sleep protecting us. There's an evolutionary stance. There's also the idea that sleep can help us recuperate our brain tissue, restore our immune system. We need that time to rest and have our body have energy to do those functions. Sleep can help restore and rebuild our fading memories of the day. So, what we learn is that sleep really helps us in consolidating memory, meaning our memory gets stored into long term during sleep. And if you don't get sleep, you're not going to have as good of memory, which is why I tell you, you need to get good sleep before a test. Sleep can help feed creative thinking. We find that sometimes when a person has a problem that they can't figure out, if they go to sleep, oftentimes they will actually find the result to it in the morning. And sleep also supports growth. So we'll talk more about all these in depth in class, but that's the basics of the theories of why we sleep. Now, test yourself and make sure you start your sleep journal. I will see you soon.